Amigos, adios for your time.
Pedro, thank you for having me. I'm always happy to be a guest on your channel.
Welcome. I would like for you to explain to us. I know I have seen on your show you do incredible explanations of everything about London, Decca, whether they're made in England or United States, but it's such a minutious and specialized task that I always forget. So I would love it if you would help me out with my collection and also help our viewers with a little more detail again for those who didn't get to see your channel.
Absolutely.
So where do we start? Do you want me to show you records, or do you want to talk about it? Or
well, my guess is that, I mean, you probably have a lot of mono Deccas, right?
Yeah, I do.
So I don't know anything about those. So I'd love to see a little. I don't know about the artists that were recording on them at that time, because this would be like late 40s, early 50s stuff, right?
Absolutely. Well,
I have nothing, because I have a few mono, RCAs. I have a few mono like American Mercuries, but I have no mono Deccas.
Okay. Well, I've got some. I'll start with these. These are easy. Segovia. Now, I think these were European versions because I interviewed a friend of mine who's a guitarist, and he said that he's in Mexico, and David, and these didn't make it to Mexico. So this must be some European versions of Segovia recordings.
Can I see the label on that? Because that, to me, that looks like the American Decca, not the British Decca. Yeah, that's the gold label. Yeah.
Okay, so this is American.
That's a different company.
Oh, we're learning. We're learning
yes,
something here.
So, do you remember that Harold Gomberg record I showed you?
Yes.
That was on American Decca, had the same label.
Ah, so this is it. So they have
this label. Nope. It's the reason why British Decca couldn't use the Decca name in the U.S. They had to use London.
I see. Interesting. Okay, so all of these are American. One gold label, yes.
I think so. Yeah. Unless it has like the FFRR.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah. If those are the gold labels, I believe those are the American Deccas.
Okay, so these go in the garbage. Right.
No, they're great. They're great records. I mean, that Harold Gomberg Decca record I have is fantastic. My music stand is falling.
I have these ones. I have a bunch of records of the Spanish music, like Zarzuela music. This looks like it's oh no, this is an American too. All right. Let's see. It has a similar kind of art. Yeah. Also.
I think so.
Okay. All right.
This is not my area of expertise, so I could be wrong.
Really? Well, I have something interesting here, sort of a rarity. It's a demo disc.
It's a what?
A demo. Like a sampler.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
A sampler. Classic 79. I assume it's from 1979. And they show you, maybe it's like a promotional thing, and they show you what was available.
Huh.
Beethoven Piano Sonata, Berlioz Requiem. Oh, Lorin Maazel and the Cleveland Orchestra at some point recorded with Decca.
Yes, in the mid 70s. I have some of those.
Yeah, this is interesting. It doesn't have the wide band. What is it that you call it?
Oh yeah, that's the normal like 70s Decca label.
Okay. Great. I feel so stupid. I have to watch your channel again. Okay, now this one doesn't have a, this is a Mantovani. I don't know. I don't have the cover for this. These are also regular.
Yeah, that's an old, probably early 50s mono London, right?
Okay, so it has, what do you call this kind? Because it has a FFRR and it has a London, but it doesn't have the wideband.
Yeah, well, that's a mono record. So my video covered stereo. In mono, it's a different playing field, and I don't know as much about the labels, but I do know one thing. So FFRR stands for full frequency range recording.
Right.
Now, in the mono era, Decca had their own recording curve, and I believe Decca called their curve the FFRR curve, if I'm not mistaken. So that actually meant something. But after everyone switched to RIAA in the stereo era, it became a marketing moniker they kept using.
I see. Well, there's a huge thing about people saying, no one ever used anything other than RIAA, and don't worry about it.
For stereo, I think that's true. With the exception of like maybe in the Soviet Union they were using old stuff and because they were kind of cut off from the world in terms of recording technology.
Mm-hmm.
But every bit of evidence I've seen has shown that the switch over to RIAA curve was industry wide, and you can go on and look up. I mean, people have asked this question to recording engineers that worked at like Decca in the 50s and 60s. And they'll tell you, no, they cut with the RIAA curve.
Okay.
I mean, I'm open to other evidence, but I just haven't seen any evidence other than people saying, well, it sounds better if I use this switch.
Yeah. Well, we know you and I have both reviewed the iPhone 3. And of course, it comes with different curves, and most people think that these are just tone controls, which is fine, you know?
For stereo, yes. For mono, though, all these mono records, I mean, you're a mono head, so this is very useful for you because all these records were cut with different curves in the mono era.
Yeah. All right, good. So I have another, this is kind of a little bit trashy, but I thought it would be kind of cool to show.
I do not know who Burl Ives is.
Okay, so could this be American? This is probably then an American Decca. Well, I thought I had a blue back version of this. I couldn't find it.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the American one.
American? Okay.
I think so. I'm not sure. Because I'm used to American Decca having the gold label, but from what I know, they weren't allowed. Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
you say something?
It says Decca Records New York.
Yeah. Because from what I understand, Decca was simply not allowed to use it from pretty much World War II to, I think, about the 70s or so.
Okay, so I can already recognize which ones go on the garbage dump bin.
Well, just because they're not British Decca doesn't mean they're bad.
No, of course, but they're not what we're talking about, so forget it.
Yeah.
What about this? This is interesting. It says Richmond, but it says a product of London Records.
I've seen those before, and I don't know what that phrase Richmond means, but I do know that's the company is the British Decca that's making those.
So maybe it could be a distribution channel thing.
Maybe. Does it say where it's pressed on the label?
Made in the USA.
That might be why. It might be
distribution.
This is a pop record, right?
No, it's opera. Well, yeah, it says Night of the Opera, but it's pop. I haven't heard it. New Symphony Orchestra.
Huh.
It doesn't even have the program here. It says, you know, Vespi Siciliani, Nabucco. I mean, it's legit opera stuff. Manon Lescaut, Don Pasquale, Lavallée. But it doesn't even list the singer. So I wonder if it's something that they pulled out of another London record.
Well, I do know that
it's like
so Decca, London Decca did press some records in the United States. I remember early on in my collecting days, I don't know if you guys have Half Price Books up in New York. Is that a chain that's up there?
Half Price?
Half Price Books.
I don't know.
It's a chain that's kind of all over the southern United States. And I remember I went to a Half Price Books years ago, and I got really excited because I found a London blueback of Ansermet conducting Stravinsky's Petrushka.
Okay.
Which is it's a somewhat high value record. I mean, even the London blueback version goes for, you know, $70 in clean condition.
Well, that's stereo, right?
Yeah, stereo.
But I have this one.
With who?
Ansermet, but it's not.
Oh, I think he recorded it a few times.
Ah, I see. Okay.
But anyway, I remember I got so I found that in the Half Price Books, and was a London blueback, and I thought, oh, this is going to be great. I got this, and I found it really cheap. I got this audiophile record, and I took it home, and it sounded like garbage. It sounded awful. It sounded bright, and there was no dynamics, and all the instruments sounded like paper.
Yeah.
And I was like, what gives? This is supposed to be an amazing record. And then I took the record weight off, and I looked at the label, and it said made in the US. And I had no idea that any Londons from that era were even being made in the US, but some were.
Interesting. Well, I'll show you something else here. Variations on an Elizabethan theme. Full frequency response. So they use the full frequency response from the beginning. The FFRR was.
Yeah, I think that was they used from the introduction of the LP. That was all their LPs from the mono era were using that technology, but it was also a marketing term, so it gets muddied.
But it wasn't on the 78s.
No, because 78s were made in a different way that I don't know enough about. I wish I did.
So
yeah.
The label for the, has the full frequency. Very elegant presentation with gold lettering, but I don't know anything about it.
Is it pressed in the US or England or?
Made in England.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So, the only experience really I have with those mono Londons is Rolling Stones records.
Okay.
Yeah, because a lot of the I shouldn't have put this laptop on a music stand. A lot of the early Rolling Stones records were on London, and the most sought after ones are the Londons that were pressed in England. But a lot of them were pressed in the U.S., and so I'm used to seeing those labels from the Stones records, but that's about it.
Okay, how about something like this, Michael? This is kind of interesting. It's a London.
Oh, okay.
But it has a much different presentation. It says that it's printed in USA. It's stereo. But is it that the cover maybe you said, I think you said in your channel that some art was printed in the USA.
All of the art was printed in the US.
So the vinyl came separately.
Yeah.
But in Europe you could get it with a different jacket then. So that's maybe the confusion. Okay, so this one has a white band.
Yeah, that's it looks like, so that's an edition 3.
Okay, tell me what edition 3 is again.
So the edition 1 for stereo, it's going to have the deep groove, which yours doesn't have. And so like I can just show you an edition 1.
Yes, please.
For London.
Yeah.
So this is an edition 1.
Where is the groove?
This thing, right? If you can see it, hopefully.
Oh, mine has it too, no? It has a groove, but
here along this, I don't see a groove on yours in the camera.
Yours looks like it has 2 levels. Mine just looks like it's a groove.
That's what I mean, 2 levels.
Okay, no, this one is the same, but it does have a groove. But yours is a little higher towards the end, right? Like a step up.
Yeah, let me show you. So the easiest for the Londons, the easiest way to tell is if it has the deep groove, and then if it has this type of like font.
I see. Okay.
So
no, the full frequency response.
So the edition 1s were from 58 to 64, 65.
Oh, this is 60s maybe?
That's going to be like 69, 70.
Oh, okay.
They're still good though.
Yeah.
And the for stuff that was recorded in 69, 70, that era, that's the original. You have the original pressing. One of my favorite Decca records, I'll show you this one. One of my favorite Decca records is the first edition is an edition 3, and it's this recording. Do you know this recording?
No.
It's Magnard. Have you ever played any Magnard?
No, never have.
Really? Do you know about him?
No.
Okay. I first became acquainted with the music of Albrecht Mignard in my master's degree. My bassoonist friend wanted to play his piano quintet. He has there's wonderful piano quintet for piano and four winds that is, it's like an hour long. It's crazy. And it's very, it sounds like if you put Strauss through an impressionist lens.
So it's 19th century French school, or?
It's a Frenchman trying to write like the Germans.
Okay.
On the turn of the century. And the cool thing about Albrecht Mignard, the reason why people kind of know who he is he died in World War I, not from fighting in the war, but because he saw the German soldiers marching over the hill from his house, and he decided to shoot out his window at them.
Wow.
And then they burnt his house down with him inside it.
Oh.
So he has some nationalistic notoriety in France. But anyway, he's got some symphonies. The symphonies are quite good, and the only one that was ever recorded during like the peak of the vinyl era and like the high fidelity era was his third symphony that Ansermet recorded with Swiss Roman.
I see.
And it really kind of sounds like French Bruckner.
Is it available online? Can I listen to it on?
Yeah, you can listen. There's some modern recordings. I think the orchestra of the Toulouse Orchestra did a full cycle.
Okay.
And I forget who else. There's I want to say there's like 3 sets of the Mignard symphonies out there, but they're not often played. But anyway, this is an edition 3, just like the one you have.
Okay, so it does have a groove, but it's all the same level.
Yeah, it's basically flat because let me see if I have.
It doesn't have a groove? Mine has a groove.
This is all flat to me. I mean, there's like the little outside like run out section. Because the edition 2s, the edition 2s are for London are essentially this label, but with the big deep groove you get on the edition 1.
Let me look again. I don't have the greatest light. Let's see if I can.
Here, I'll show you an edition 2.
There, you see the groove there?
Oh, that is that's an edition 2. I couldn't see it from your camera.
Yeah, because I have a terrible camera. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, edition 2 basically means it was made from 65 to about 68.
And the vinyl feels hefty, so it's still it's pre-oil crisis.
Yeah, the edition 3s, like this one, it's still hefty, but it's a little bit thinner. It's like a normal, like 160 gram record or something like that. And then the later, the 70s narrow band stuff, that's when you start to get the thinner records. But the Deccas are never, Decca never, unlike RCA and Mercury, Decca never went to really crappy vinyl.
Yeah, they never went below a certain standard. They had a really high standards for recording and equipment. They developed equipment to use in their recordings. So I don't want to bore you with too many monos, but I thought this was interesting because one of my favorite cellists, San Elsova, who was probably very, very young here.
I'm not familiar.
Yeah, Sarah Nelsova, she recorded the Dvorak cello concerto with the St. Louis Symphony, one of those Vox recordings, and Dick Woodhams is playing. He was very young, and the oboe playing, in that concerto is amazing, and Dick Woodhams plays incredible.
I don't doubt that.
Okay, so this is mono, so that's what you can expect. Although this one doesn't have the gold lettering, I don't know.
I seem to remember, because I've been on a few of those like labelography websites. I seem to remember there's a lot of different variations of the label in the mono era. Because even with the stereo era stuff, the opera recordings they did in a different color label, and the crossover stuff they did in a different color label.
I have this Brahms Piano Concerto No. 2.
Oh, cool. With who?
Vienna Philharmonic, and it's Wilhelm Backhaus.
Ah.
But Karl Schuricht conducting.
Probably my favorite romantic pianist. I actually pulled out some Backhaus recordings.
Well, this one has the gold lettering.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that means. This maybe just they keep changing their mind. It was too expensive to use the gold because it was real gold.
It was probably made from some endangered animal, or maybe
Lead,
mercury. Maybe there's mercury in the.
lead poison. Yeah, if it smells like it's like my new Garage. I don't think I told you I got a Garage 301.
Really?
And I had an unboxing yesterday, and I said, wow, it smells toxic. That's probably why they sound so good.
They're interesting. I left them out of my recent video because they're a little screwy.
Yeah, they're kind of junky. This one sounds terrible and also has a
Yeah.
lot of noise. Very noisy.
Mine are noisy too. The vinyl quality is bad. So with the Decca Phase 4s, it's the only instance where the British versions and the American versions are actually, from what I understand, different.
But you say they were all printed in England. Oh, they actually, I mean, the records were printed in England. No?
Yes, but I've heard it from a few people now, people that don't buy into the whole, the British Deccas sound different from the British Londons. A few people have told me that they just mastered the Phase 4s differently for the different markets.
Well, they had to because of the quadraphonic thing, and they have to have a signal. I think
Yeah.
they had a limited frequency response also. They have to encode the other two channels, below 16 kilohertz or something like that, and they only went to 18 kilohertz.
Yeah, I have a couple Phase 4s, and they sound pretty ridiculous. However, I do have one British Decca Phase 4, and it's Stokowski doing pictures at an exhibition. And that one, it's the mastering is stupid.
Yeah, I have one that is pretty bad. It's probably also one of my worst recordings.
Oh, that's not a Phase 4. That's a London Digital.
Oh, that's even worse, right?
Decca's early digital was bad.
It doesn't even have a nice label.
Yeah, no. The only early digital I think that was the only digital on vinyl and classical worth buying is the Telarcs, I think.
Really? Well, but I mean, Chicago Symphony, they kept going digital. I mean, I have my
and it's rough.
Yeah. This one digital? I know I have a bunch of them that are digital. No, I don't think this one's digital.
No, is that Mahler 7?
No, this is the 8th.
8th. I have that. It's really good.
Okay.
No, that's a mid 70s.
I got it recently, so I have it because some of the digital ones also have this foil shiny.
Yeah, I have a digital of Schulte doing Mahler 9 with Chicago.
Yeah.
And it doesn't sound good.
No. But some of the Deutsche gramophones, like the one with the CDM suite with Chicago and Abado, that is one of the best recordings I have. The one that has Lieutenant Quiget, CDM suite, and Alexander Nevsky.
Huh. I haven't heard that one.
Ray Steele was on his prime. It was like in the 70s, and he sounded great. It's a really good recording. Of course, this is a classic one.
Oh, yeah. I pulled it out.
Yeah. I also have the piano concertos, Beethoven piano concertos.
There we go. Different box, but...
Oh, they look different. Why?
I don't know. Because they made 1 million of them.
Right. Ah, interesting.
Yeah, but no, yeah, I think I paid $20 for this.
Yeah, I think I got this on my Goodwill store also. And here's a nice one. Very unique singer. She was an alto.
Yeah, I've heard some of her stuff at some point.
So what does this make? It doesn't have a groove.
You're asking me about mono again, and I have no idea.
Okay. Yes, I need to get a little more involved into this, identifying the labels for mono. Okay, is this a blue back? But I mean, I have some that are like a blue frame, but this is blue. Is this a blue back or not?
I don't think so. Can I see the cover? No, that's I mean, that's not the traditional blueback. That is an early Decca. I've never seen the London version of that record, so I couldn't tell you. What's the label like?
It has a groove, but this one seems to have a 2-level groove. I don't know. Maybe second. Is it also second pressing?
No, that's an edition 2.
Edition 2. Okay. Made in England.
Yeah, that's probably a very good sounding record. I've you know, I think I might have the what piece is that?
It's the Après-Midi and the Nocturnes and the Pavane.
You know, I don't have that, but it's on my, I think it's on my want list.
And it's Rhapsody Español.
Yeah, I imagine. I mean, anything. I rarely have heard a bad Pierre Monteau recording.
Yeah.
Except for the Living Stereo Rite of Spring with the Paris Conservatory.
I don't know if I have that.
It wasn't well received at the time, so they didn't make a lot of them. But there's a story behind that one, and it's because apparently, so the way it worked at the Paris Conservatory Orchestra at that time, whenever people wanted to use the orchestra for recording, you know, officially the orchestra was supposed to have the teachers at the Paris Conservatory in it, and so the section heads were, you know, quite accomplished players. But apparently, in order to get those people to come to a recording session, bribes had to be paid. And apparently for Pierre Monteau's Rite of Spring recording with RCA, the appropriate bribes were not paid that day.
Oh.
And the orchestra is filled with student substitutes.
So they didn't, they walked out. Wow.
So it's kind of a yeah, not a great recording.
Well, I know another piece of gossip about Pierre Monteau. I don't know, it prevails, but people deny it. You know the recordings of the Canteloupe, the songs.
The what?
Canteloupe, the songs of the Auvergne. Songs of the Auvergne. Oh, I gotta get this. Oh, hold on, I have to show you this. Okay. So, have I got a piece of gossip for you?
Okay.
Michael? Do you know this recording? These are
I do not.
Songs of the Auvergne. You probably know them because they're really audiophile. Everybody listens to them in the audiophile world. You might have seen it on the different guys, but I actually have it on DVD audio. High resolution. You can get it high resolution. Also in mono. Is this the mono version? I have both mono and stereo versions. So I think this might be, well, it says VRS, so it might be stereo. But I also have it in mono. Anyway, if you look here very carefully, you see Songs of the Auvergne with Netanya Dabrat, and the orchestra, it doesn't even say the orchestra, right? And it says orchestra conducted by Pierre de la Roche.
Yeah, I've had some of his recordings.
Really?
I think I've heard the name many times. I think I've read the name a few times.
So he recorded more, because the gossip is that he only recorded this, and that he doesn't. The gossip is that Pierre de la Roche doesn't exist, and that this woman may have had something with Pierre Monteau, and that it's possible that it was Pierre Monteau conducting this orchestra, which is a sine nomine orchestra, no-name orchestra, with a person who doesn't exist, Pierre de la Roche, because if you Google it, I mean, any conductor, you know, that made it to have a record would have probably have some history, either live, you know, performances or recordings, or it couldn't just be that this guy made one recording and then disappeared, was taken by the aliens, taken away. So the rumor is that she was his lover, and that he thanked her by getting her into the business. But then if you go online on some of the musicology forums, people say, no, why would he do that? And they discard that gossip, and they say, why would he do a recording, you know, under a different name, or he didn't need to do that. He didn't need to go under guise under, you know, pseudonym. And but the Ghost Obsessed is that he had to do it so he could do this recording with this lady. So it remains a mystery. I have also, this is my favorite, Flagstaff. She does a lot of banger. And I have her, of course, on in mono recordings, but then this one is in stereo, the Vienna Philharmonic. And let's see what the label looks like. She is superb in banger.
Yeah. I have some of her, I think Mahler.
Well, this is interesting. There's no, so this is probably like a compilation. There's no groove.
Is it made in England?
Made in England.
Yeah, then it's a edition 3.
Okay.
Because it's still wideband.
Yeah, and the art looks pretty modern, I guess. I mean, it's modern. They just took an old picture and put it there.
Yeah. The art on the Londons is never as good as the art on the Deccas.
Huh.
That's what's nicer about the British Deccas is they have better sleeves.
Can you show me some examples?
Yes, I can. So I didn't actually have this when I recorded my Decca video. This is the only 2000 series Decca I own. It's Holst the Planets with Herbert von Karajan in Vienna.
What is the 2000 series?
So early on in the stereo Deccas, they started with a 2000 numbering system, SXL 2000.
Okay.
And then they switched over to the SSL 6000 series. And they switched over to the 6000s in about like 1960, 61-ish. So the earliest 2000 series are the most desirable. Now, they never used that numbering system with the Londons. They were always in 6-something in London. So what makes this unique is not just that it's an edition 1 pressing, but also like the jacket is an original, like it's the tip-on British style jacket. It has this this white band at the top, which on later repressings of this same record, they get rid of this white band.
Okay.
It just has the Decca logo on top. Yeah. And yeah, of course you can see edition 1.
White band, but it has a Decca logo.
Well, so yeah, so for the British ones, how you tell is it has the groove, it has the wide bands, but then at the top it says original recording by.
And when you say British version, it's still, they're all printed. They just put a different label on it? Is that what it is?
Yeah, they're all made in the same factory in England.
It says London because it cannot say Decca because there's an American Decca. So then they just...
No, how it worked in the factories over there is they just have one stack of labels that said London and one stack of labels that said Decca. They come from the same stampers.
Right, just for the United States, they couldn't use the name Decca, so they had to put them on them.
Yeah, they'd ship the records over to the U.S., and then in the U.S., they put the jackets on them. The jackets were made in the U.S.
Oh, then there's a high probability that I don't have any British Deccas. I don't know. It's possible that because all my dumpster diving, all I get is the American versions.
And... Ooh, which one is that?
Ashkenazi.
Oh, I have those. Those are great.
Yeah. Okay. So what generation are these? These are modern.
Probably narrowband, I think.
Yeah, they're modern, right?
Yeah. Well, if by modern you mean 70s. Yeah, but there's no like big outer ring groove like on the earlier ones, right? It's hard for me to tell through the camera.
I know. There's a step up right here. It steps up.
Oh. Then maybe that is an edition 2. Let me look up. When did that come out?
Will it say on the label?
It may.
1973. 73.
Then that's definitely a narrowband. It's weird that would be a groove press.
Right. I mean, there is a groove here, a little one, like for the 45, like a 45.
Yeah, like a 45.
And then there's one here. But
yeah, but it's not like
it's not at the same level. No, it's a step up.
Oh, okay. That's different.
So that's not a groove.
Yeah, I think that's why they call it like the deep groove, because it's almost like on On the old ones, it's almost like there's like a valley in between the two. Let's see. So the reason why, I mean, probably the reason why you don't have any British Deccas is because they don't make sense a lot of the time, because they're like 3 times the price of the Londons.
And you only have British Deccas because you pursue them, not because you went to the Goodwill store. That's what I do. So I get the American.
But so there's really only 2 reasons why you'd want a British Decca. One is sometimes the cover's nicer. Yeah. Sometimes they were never issued as a London. And sometimes. But also, the British just took better care of their records.
Okay, so then you know it's going to be in better shape.
I mean, I rarely get something from England that's graded as near mint that's not actually near mint. Where if I something in the U.S., it's so hard to find some of these, especially the stuff from the late 50s that's not chewed up.
Yeah.
And also with the box sets, it's really annoying. So like a lot of my Mahler stuff that's on Decca, the box sets are really annoying because on the London versions they're auto-coupled. Okay. So the first record is side 1 in side 4. Whereas on the British versions, it's side 1 and side 2 because the British are sophisticated. They don't use record changers.
Or they didn't have 2 turntables.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I have a couple Deccas, but the vast majority of my collection, especially of the early stuff, is all London. Like, this is one of, I think, 2 total. No. I want to say this is about. I have about 10 of these edition 1 Deccas, and I probably have 35 of the edition 1 Londons.
Okay. And the blue backs, you have a bunch of them?
Yeah, well, because they're all the edition 1 Londons are blue backs.
Okay, so then I can show you a couple I have. I think I have more, but I couldn't find them. But I have this one. Do you have this one?
I do. I got that in Michigan, I think. It's a great recording.
Yeah. It's a good piece. I saw Rattle Conductor's piece with the Berlin Philharmonic by memory. That was amazing. I was blown away. It's a great piece. Yeah.
I really like Anser May with Stravinsky. He does very good Stravinsky interpretations.
Have you ever played Stravinsky Renard?
No, I haven't.
It's a mean part. I played it.
What Stravinsky isn't a mean part?
I know. I played it as a ballet, and I played its oboe and English horn. And the English horn part, it's got some really high solos and very cool. I did it not too long ago as a summer project. It's good. So this one has a big print, right?
Yeah, that's an edition 1.
Okay, and it has a groove, but at the very end of the label.
Wait, at the very end?
Yeah, like right here. Not here.
Oh, you got a pancake pressing.
There. See it?
Yeah, that's called a pancake pressing.
What does that mean?
So,
is that a bad thing or a good thing?
Or does it
go in there?
For sound quality, I think it doesn't mean anything. But in terms of the value of that record, it means quite a lot.
So it's rare. It's more rare than others.
It is. So here's what I've come to understand about the pancake pressings.
I should put a plastic jacket then.
Because I have that record, but I don't have it. I have it in a regular edition 1. I don't have it in a pancake pressing.
Okay.
So what the pancake pressings is basically London Decca at that time. You know, they had their dedicated pressing plants, but they were also, I think they were outsourcing a little bit to other pressing plants in England.
Okay.
So the pancake pressing is from early on, like the first 2 or 3 years of the stereo era, where they were printing records they're pressing records at another facility that they just didn't have. They stopped using eventually.
Okay, so it's equivalent to a postage stamp that was printed sideways or upside down, whatever. It's just an odd thing. You know? Yeah,
it's an odd thing, and it makes it rare. Like the pancake pressings of the British Deccas can go for like $300.
Okay.
I don't know how much the Pancake Londons go for, but they're very rare.
What is the most, maybe it's a personal question, what is the most you've spent on the Decca?
Well, the funny thing is, technically this one's worth the most.
Okay, how much is that one worth?
I think this is worth about $100.
Okay.
But I didn't pay that because I didn't mean to order an edition 1. I thought I was buying an edition 2.
You know that you have a lot of luck with those things. Yeah, I remember you told me the story of your Berlin Philharmonic direct-to-disc, and that's happened to you quite a few times, huh? You end up getting something much better.
Well, I bought from a large eBay seller who had 2 versions of this record listed. This and the edition 2. The edition 2 was $40.
Okay.
And then this was $100. And I bought the edition 2 and he sent me the edition 1. So and I left him good feedback.
I was going to say, he got good feedback. Yes. Honest seller, but not necessarily honest buyer. How about, okay, I have another blue bag, but it's kind of trashy music. It's like a mood music. It's sort of like a mall elevator music.
Yes, I do not know what this is.
It sounds really good, but it's terrible music. It's really bad.
So it's like what they play at every single hi-fi show.
Yeah, it's like Hammond organ with tropical sounds and like,
oh God,
it's really bad, like really bad. Like trying to pretend to be Latin music, but it's not. Not even close. It's called Cuban Moonlight. That should tell you that on the picture, and it's really bad. It's like, you know, but it has an interesting label.
Huh.
And it has a groove or the step up.
Yeah.
So then it's probably 60s. It's not that old. I mean, compared to others. But it has a wide band.
I mean, it has the old London logo, so it's from before 1965.
Made in England.
No, but you see how the London is in that like italic logo?
Yes. So
yeah, that means it's from before 65.
Okay. Usually they say the date somewhere, right?
On the older ones, they often don't.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't thrown it out because of that. But when I got it at Goodwill, I noticed that it was a blue bag. So I was like, oh, I should get it for $1. And then I want to show you this one. That's Lied von der Erde.
Oh, with Bernstein. Yeah. You know what? I have the Decca of that.
Oh.
Well, okay. Not only do I have the Decca of that, I also have the Japanese king of it. Let me see if I got it out.
Oh, that's right. There was a company who did Decca in Japan.
Yes. I don't know if I got that out, but it, you know, they look like this.
I think you asked me about that, if I had any of those.
Yeah, so the thing is, London Records was still a thing in Japan. I mean, they still did Japanese releases of most of the Decca catalog. They were labeled London. But okay. those were the standard releases, and like most Japanese issues of things recorded in the West, they were made using tape dubs, so they don't sound very good.
Okay.
But in the 80s, King Records got access to the original tapes, old releases. And so they did a special series called the King Super Analog series. It's very, they were very hyped on themselves.
It sounds like they command a very good price.
They do. You know, actually, some of them are not as nearly as expensive as the originals. But what's interesting is, so they got the original tapes, and essentially what they did is they basically did a version of these old Deccas with no filters or limiting whatsoever. Because all of these old like late 50s, early 60s records had a lot of you know, things to make sure that they were playable on a lot of turntables. They had, you know, the dynamics were limited, everything was a little rolled off, and they really wanted to eliminate all that for this.
Interesting.
So These are more dynamic than the original Deccas. They don't have quite the same tone.
So you don't prefer this to your living stereo of Scheherazade?
Well, the playing isn't as good.
Right.
This is
Yeah, yeah, of course.
the Anserme,
That
and
orchestra sounded like an amateur orchestra sometimes.
sometimes, not
Yeah.
always.
No, no, the
I
Stravinsky, you said. You like the Stravinsky.
I like the Stravinsky, and I have this Anserme conducts Debussy with La Mer and the Rhapsody for Clarinet and Orchestra.
Well, I have this version, which is like a bastardized version, right? And it's very good. The overplaying is a little funny, but like the Rhapsody Español and the recording is really good, even though it's a degenerate version of it.
Oh yeah, that's a reissue, I think.
Yeah, Treasury, London Treasury. What do you say about this? What do you think?
So is that one made in England? Some of them were made in England, some of them were made in the U.S. So
made in the U.S.
Pressed in the U.S.
It's a little bright sounding, but it still sounds good. I think it has dynamics.
So from what I understand of the stereo treasuries, if the record was pressed in England, oftentimes they were actually going back and pulling out the original metal parts from the original Decca run.
Oh wow, I better look into that because I do have a lot of those.
The problem is that they pressed it on really shitty vinyl.
Of course, because of the oil.
I've bought a couple of those over the years, usually at like Goodwill.
Yeah.
And I usually I've given up on them because every one I've run across has been incredibly noisy.
Let's see. This one has it looks like a British label, but who knows? Made in England.
Yeah.
Ah, I hit the jackpot.
So yeah, they can be very good sounding, but it's a hit or miss on if it's gonna sound like Rice Krispies.
Yeah. And this is a Paris Conservatory Orchestra, so you have to know if the teachers were there. Charpentier.
I don't know that recording.
Impressions of Italy.
Huh. Yeah, it's not even repertoire I'm familiar with.
Me neither. But it's good for a needle drop, maybe. If I have time. So other than the Japanese versions, what else can you do if you want to get the good quality Decca London? Where do you go?
Well, so I mean, I think still some of the best option is to go for original Londons, like the London Bluebacks, because it may take you a while to find a clean one, but the prices can't be beat. I mean, most of the really nice London Deccas in a Blueback edition one, were no more than $30 for even the most sought after. Okay. I think some of the most sought after ones are like the Anserme Petrushka. There's a couple like Ricci violin ones that can get expensive, but most of the orchestral stuff, I mean, you're looking at between for a clean copy between $20 and $50, which is a good deal considering the Decca version may be over $100. And you can get an original edition one, and even the edition twos sound pretty much the same. You're probably paying another 20% just for that edition one label. So edition twos are nothing to laugh at either.
And how do you compare? I mean, I think for American audiophiles, probably the Mercuries and the Living Stereo are more valued than the Deccas, right? Would you say that?
They are, because the Absolute Sound wrote about them.
Okay.
Harry Pearson really liked the Living Stereos and the Mercuries, and so he put them on his lists, and a bunch of American audiophiles snapped them up, and they in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s they were very expensive, and now they've come down. The people that collect Decca are they're weirder.
You already have to be weird to collect records to begin, right? But
yeah, but it's more of the like super particular classical aficionado. Honestly, the Japanese and people in Asia snap them up. I remember talking with some of the guys that worked at Academy Records on 18th, and they have in Academy. I don't know if you've ever been in that one, but they have a case in the back of all the rare records, the rare classical, and it's London Bluebacks, it's Deccas, it's RCA Living Stereos and Mercuries, but it's a lot of Deccas, and and one day I walked in and the case was almost empty. There was just, maybe there used to be like 150 records in there, and now there was 20. But there's a small community of people who really collect the classical vinyl, and they really go crazy for the like edition 1 British Decca with the tip-on jacket, and they'll pay crazy money for them because they're 70-year-old rich guys who have taken over half their house with records.
I know people like that. But what about the monos then? People still don't care. Well, some of them care about the monos. Other ones want 78s.
Oh, well, 78, people that collect 78s, sorry. I've met a few of them.
That's something to reckon with.
I've never had the opportunity.
It sounds like the real thing. I'm telling you, because nothing was close-mic'd.
Yeah.
So it feels like you're in a high school theater.
Well, the 70, if I know my recording technology correctly, I mean the 78. Well, no, you're right, because the later ones were electric. Because I want to say like the early 78s, they were just recording right into the bell of the.
Yeah, of course, yeah, into the horn, and then they only had like 3 people playing or 4.
Yeah.
A Wagner opera with like 4 people, but. No, I'm talking about the modern 78s. Like the other day I was at this guy's house and we listened to the first recording of the Debussy quartet, which was
really?
a quartet in France that Debussy gave. Debussy told them, you should record this. I listened to Casals playing the Dvorak. I actually, at the Goodwill store, I got Brahms' first symphony, with the London Symphony, on 78s, and it sounded great. And
is it like 12 78s?
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah. It lasts about three minutes, and then they always have to end up in a chord, But the sound, it's bewitching. It's really seductive. You should find a way to listen. Don't buy them, but just find a way to listen to them. It's somebody's,
when I was at McGill, they had quite a large library of 78s, and they had an original gramophone. And when I did my presentation, I did a project on all the recorded versions of the Bach B minor Mass.
Okay.
And yeah.
How many? 50 records on the B minor Mass for a 78?
A lot. I think it was like a book of like 20. And I had they had an original, the library had an original copy of the first ever recording of the Bach B minor Mass. And we listened to it as a class, and yes, it was distorted, but at the same time there was it's distorted in a different way. There's a naturalness to the sound that we're used to. When we think of distortion nowadays, we think of bad quality digital recordings, someone recorded on their iPhone, but the primitive recording of the acoustic age, it's different. It sounds.
It takes a particular kind of cartridge also.
Yeah, you have all that stuff. I don't have any of that stuff.
I don't have a high-end 78 cartridge because I'm just starting. I have like an Audio-Technica, but I don't.
But you have a ton of mono stuff, and you have a dedicated mono speaker.
Yeah, and I have a Miyajima mono cartridge. It's very nice. So I shouldn't take more of your time, but this is also a blueback, right? I mean, it's blue, but it doesn't have the frame.
Yeah, I don't know. Is that a mono?
It's kind of interesting. Yeah, it's an interesting art, right? It looks almost like.
It's a little Third Reichy.
Or socialist, or fascist, something like that. Yeah. This one has a groove. but it doesn't have the
Huh.
white
Yeah,
pattern.
it is a mono. Yeah.
Okay.
Again, I don't know anything about the mono labels. I do know that the stereo version of that recording, that was recorded in the stereo era, so they issued both. I know that's a very sought after Decca.
But only in stereo, not in mono. It depends. Maybe the mono guys.
You know, I'm sure there are quite rare, inexpensive mono Deccas. I'm sure there are. It's just
It's
the
a different game. It's a different
yeah.
ballgame.
I think a lot of the mono Deccas are probably rare because of scarcity more than anything else.
What about the ones with the little flag on the, these are 70s, right?
Yeah.
70s, 80s.
So in the 70s they would do that to the jackets because they were marketing them as imports even though they were London's.
Okay.
So they
Yeah.
say, "Oh look, hey, you're getting an import."
Right, right. This one even says, seal for your protection. Thank you. And but these are not. They don't have the groove, and
Yeah, it's a like a narrow band.
it feels a little bit thinner. The vinyl.
But still, the quality of the vinyl itself is still good. I mean, those 70s Deccas, it's the roster of performers was still great. The
Yeah.
quality of the vinyl's still good. The mastering is great. I recognize that jacket. What is that?
Albeniz, Purbeck de Burgos.
Uh, I don't know if I have that, but I've seen that jacket before. Sure.
Wow, Michael, thank you so much for your time. I think that I maybe learned something, but there's so much to explore, and I just keep getting confused. I have to do some reading, especially on the mono thing, because I want to know about. I have so many mono recordings. I need to learn how to become an authority on it. So
It's a shame that unlike the RCAs and the Mercuries, like a lot of the RCA Mercury stuff has been very well documented, both by audiophiles and by like people in the industry. And the Decca stuff, there seems to be very little available in terms of like reference material on learning about the history of Decca in terms of labels and recording techniques and things like that.
I guess it's a matter of me finding the time to submit all those things to Discogs, all my photos of because you always have records that they're not available when you put the data in Discogs.
Yeah.
They're not there, and then you have to submit. And I'm like, it's too much work. Yeah. So thank you so much for your time, and I hope that we can meet again and talk about other records. And your time is always very valuable, and I'm sure our viewers really enjoy this conversation.
All right. Thank you, Pedro, and thank you to the audience.
Okay, take care.